Welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast
with Garrett Williamson.
Health, wellness, exercise, nutrition, and a whole lot more. Got questions? Call us and leave a message at 251-278-EDGE or message us at Personal Edge Fitness on Facebook and Instagram, at Team PE on Twitter, or personaledgefitness.com.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm glad you're here because I'm talking about one of the things that really that sticks in my craw. It is one of those ideas that just gets blown out of proportion, and people make it far more difficult than it is and far more difficult than it should be, and that is metabolism. Now, the first thing that I'm going to cover, the myth of metabolism. I'm going to tell you 4 different myths associated with metabolism. And I'm probably going to step on some toes here because there's quite a few people, especially if you Google some of these things, they're going to say I'm wrong. But when you start actually reading the fine details of all of it and you listen to this podcast, you'll see actually everything they're talking about in those articles pretty much proves exactly what I'm saying. First thing is that we have a fast or slow metabolism. You're born with one of those. It's a luck of the draw. As you came off the assembly line, they gave you one or the other, and that's all there is to it. You know, my brother's got a fast metabolism because he's really thin. I have a slow one because I'm not. And that's not true. It's not something you inherently have. It's not like fast twitch muscles, slow twitch muscles. It's something, believe it or not, that you control. The ridiculous idea, you know it's not going to go too long into the podcast before I bring up this myth of age. But the second myth is that it slows as we age. I may have stepped on your toes a little bit when I said that. And I don't mean to offend you, I promise you. But there's some real good news with that. But first is that it doesn't slow as time passes on a calendar. But remember, because of all those things that we associate with age and the fact that they don't change because time passes on a calendar, well, then we can actually affect them. We can actually change them. The bad news is that I took the excuse away, but I can save your life by letting you know that you can change it. You can control it. That's the third myth, is that we don't control our metabolism. We eat food, we exercise, and then this metabolism monster takes over and does what it wants to do. And that's not true. We can directly affect it. And that this is a $1 billion market. The idea that you can take something to speed up your metabolism is simply not true. Typically, any of those types of products that supposedly speed up your metabolism, they're an upper, they're ephedrine, they're cocaine, they're something like that ups your heart rate, and not something I'd advise, and doesn't make your metabolism from there on stay faster. That's simply not true. Well, it's some time for reality here. I'm going to tell you why these things aren't true and tell you a little bit about what is metabolism. I've got your scientific definition. So if you're there and you're critiquing me, the definition of metabolism is the organic and chemical processes inside of an organism that are necessary to maintain life, or how quickly you burn calories or fat. Basically, the chemical processes that let you stay alive are an example of what metabolism is. Isn't that great? Isn't that fantastic? The organic and chemical processes. Boy, if you hear something like that, you think, well, there's nothing I can do about it. It's these processes, these organic and chemical processes that just happen. Well, that's not true, because the term metabolism is commonly used to refer specifically the breakdown of food and its transformation to energy. That's what it is. It's the breakdown of food and its transformation into energy. That's typically what we're talking about when we're talking about metabolism. Let's get into the body a little bit real quick, and I don't want to bore anybody to tears because we're going to talk about how to help your metabolism and the things that affect your metabolism. What happens in your body? What's involved? Well, we have the stomach, obviously. Let's talk about like a car. That'd be your gas tank. That's where you're putting the fuel in. Fuel goes in there. It gets disseminated, broke down, and processed a little bit through the upper and lower colon. And then the engine of the body gets involved. And the engine of the body is the liver. Now, if you've been to a physician or had a general checkup and they take blood or whatever, they'll tell you they're checking liver functions. You hear this if you've ever been to the hospital. One of the first things they're going to check on you is liver functions. And why? Because, well, the liver does a heck of a lot, especially with metabolism and pretty much everything. But the liver functions to process fat and, like I say, act as more or less the brain. I'm afraid I'm going to get too far down the road with these, so I'm just going to mention liver functions and go on down to the adrenals. Now, your adrenals, they're small glands that lie on top of your kidneys, and they secrete hormones. They regulate your body's response to stress. You've heard of fight or flight. That's where this is kind of regulated. These are automatic responses that we have. These hormones, these adrenals, determine how you access the fuel in your body and what you do with the fuel or food that you consume. Do you store it as fat? Or do you burn it as energy? What are you doing with it? And some of the specific hormones, now you've probably heard of some of these, that the adrenals release include cortisol, adrenaline, epinephrine. You get scared and you jump up and run away or whatever. That's an adrenaline boost. That's basically controlled by the adrenals. Welcome to our drinking game. If you're listening to our podcast on a regular basis, you know that we are making sure that everybody is staying hydrated. So when you hear me make that sound, I'll do it again because I need to catch up a little bit. I'm going for about 150 today. I already topped the 100 mark, which I'm pretty proud of myself. So every time you hear me make that sound, make sure that you're taking some water in, you're staying hydrated. And again, folks, it's not a drinking game like, hey, Bob, we want you drinking water and making sure that you're staying hydrated because water has so much to do with the functions of our body. But back to those adrenals, the secretion of these stress hormones regulate the release of glucose or sugar from the muscle and liver cells to either stimulate or slow down your body's metabolic rate. Now, when you hear something like that, you think, okay, there's nothing I can do to affect it. There's nothing I can do to actually make the changes. That's either have good adrenals or bad adrenals. Again, folks, don't get wrapped up too much in that. It's not really true. Another organ involved is the pituitary gland. I think of the pituitary gland as like the conductor of the orchestra. It secretes hormones that regulate or conduct the actions of many other hormones in your body. For example, the pituitary stimulates the thyroid to secrete its hormones with thyroid-stimulating hormone, or what we call TSH. Now, the reason I bring up the TSH hormone, if that level is high, that means the thyroid is requiring a lot of motivation or pushing to get its job done, or what we call hypothyroidism. If a TSH is normal, all the pituitary has to do is speak in a normal voice. Basically, it doesn't have to scream and shout and what have you to keep up the good work. And if the TSH is very low, then your thyroid gland may be overactive, which is hyperthyroid, and the pituitary may only whisper as we say it in my conductor analogy. Now, speaking of the thyroid, I always bring this up, not only because it's involved in metabolism, but a lot of people say, well, Garrett, metabolism, the rules you use for it not being controllable, the example I have is somebody has a thyroid problem. As far as metabolism is concerned, how it controls weight, you can just about take that one off the table too. Now, that sounds crazy, and it's something you should get checked, and it's something that does affect your weight gain. And still, metabolism is broken down into the easiest terms, which I'm going to get to in just a minute. But just to tell you the difference, you've got hypothyroidism I was talking about earlier, and that's the one that everybody's concerned about. If you have hypothyroidism, you've got an underactive thyroid, and therefore you'll tend to gain more weight. If you have a hyperthyroidism, that's when you have a tendency to lose weight. And that stimulates whether or not you're going to take in more food. And that's really the key. It's not so much the breakdown as it is in how much food you're going to take in. Hyperthyroidism, you're typically not going to eat as much, and hypothyroidism, you're going to have a tendency to eat more. And that's what they don't tell you about those two conditions. They act like it's something that just happens in your body and either burns fat or doesn't burn fat. It goes back to taking in calories. And there's one last part of the organs here, and I'll get into that, my definition of metabolism. And the last organs that are involved, not really an organ, they're tissues, which are fat and muscle. Now, in fat, you've got two types of fat. Now, let me be clear when I say two types of fat. I don't mean all those ridiculous ideas that there's belly fat and there's hard fat and there's easy fat and there's cellulite and there's stubborn fat, and that's all a myth. We'll talk about that in the podcast about fat. But what I'm talking about is a fat that dictates a difference in functionality and not resistance to burning, which when you hear people talking about supposedly these other ideas of fat, they're talking about a resistance to being burned. Now, this is functionality. You have brown fat, which is highly concentrated with mitochondria. Now, this is typically stored in muscle. It's your ready energy. My analogy with that was that if you've ever been on a Coast Guard cutter, they have guns on those ships, and right next to this 50 caliber was a box. It was a red ammo box. It was painted and had spray painted on there with the stencil letters that you see of a lot of military, and it said ready ammo. I looked at that box and I said, that's not much ammo. The guy said, oh yeah, that's just the stuff. If something pops up right in front of them, they can whip some ammo in there and start firing before they get into the ammo dump downstairs and start bringing things up. It was your ready ammo. Well, that's what this brown fat is. It stays near the muscle, close to it's your ready ammo. The white fat is the stuff that we don't like. It doesn't have as much mitochondria in it, and it's stored around organs for insulation and stored energy. That's how your body actually stores energy. So there's two different types of fat involved in there, and how much you have of each one of them does affect your metabolism. After hearing all those different organs and those tissues involved, that when I say it's a much simpler process than what we believe, you probably think that's ridiculous. But when we're talking metabolism, the subject matter typically is weight gain. It's very rare that somebody's talking about the idea of metabolism and not discussing weight loss or weight gain. And the fact that we don't understand exactly what's going on is the way that we can get confused about food that we eat, supplements that we should buy, activities we should do. And it's mainly guessing at how do I speed this thing up and what kind of metabolism do I have, and asking all these questions. I want to make it simple. And I hate to tell you, all you people out there that believe this, and I've seen fitness professionals talk about this. I've heard podcasts on it. If you Google this, you will find copious amounts of articles that say that the next line that I'm about to say just isn't true. At the end of the day, it is calories in, calories out. I hate to tell you that, but it's very simple. In the 1700s, there was a French physicist that proved that all matter's already been created. It's all here. We're not making new stuff unless an asteroid hits this planet and stays. We're not creating matter on this planet. Now, why do I bring that up? Because some people think that happens daily in our bodies. I was doing great on my diet, but then I ate a muffin and I gained 5 pounds. Now, wait a second. Where did you find a 5-pound muffin? Where did you find a muffin that's 15, almost 18,000 calories? That's what 5 pounds is. People say that, well, I ate that muffin, I have a slow metabolism. No, it's ridiculous. That's why I'm bringing up, it is simply calories in, calories out. A guy I worked with in high school, this is a good example of some of the ridiculous things that you see. He'd actually gone through a program of some sort and he lost a lot of weight, but he would eat a Snickers bar and then he would drink a Diet Coke. And I promise you, he believed that Diet Coke got rid of the calories in the Snickers bar or something. It's thinking like this that's just absurd. Here's the root of the problem. If I ask you, what did you have at breakfast this morning? You probably can tell me. If you're really tracking your nutrition, you keep up and you really study good, clean food and what have you, I ask you what you had for lunch yesterday, you can probably tell me. In fact, if you're really a student of it all and maybe you do the grocery shopping in the house, I can ask you what you had for supper 3 nights ago, and you can tell me exactly what you had. Some people can tell me not only exactly what they had, but they can tell me what store they bought it, where they bought it. A yogurt, and it's the new Greek yogurt, but not that Greek yogurt you've been hearing about. This is a special Greek yogurt that you get. It only comes from sacred cows, and actually not cows, it's goats, and you can't get it on the top shelf. You have to get it on the third bottom shelf around the corner. They only have it on a special Tuesday at this one store. And I know I'm being ridiculous, but it's amazing the detail that people can tell me about buying this special and food and what have you. Well, I turn around and ask those same people. And I've done this in crowds. Rarely do I have a hand go up. I ask them, okay, how many calories did you have in the last 6 hours? Now, you can tell me exactly what they had to eat in detail 3 nights ago. But when I ask them, how many calories did you have? Some people have got food in front of them. Now, how many calories is that? Typically, the best I get is, well, it's about, I think it's somewhere around. Or if I ask somebody, okay, if you're keeping up with your good food and you're really into your nutrition and what have you, and I ask you, what does a pound look like? In other words, how many calories are in a pound? Well, it's 3,500 calories in a pound, but it's amazing how many people don't know that, especially people that are studying their nutrition. They fall into this idea that I'm going to eat this healthy food and either I have a fast or slow metabolism. I'm just going to roll the dice, and it's not true, folks. It's simply calories in, calories out. And the reason we get lost on all that is wanting to make excuses for where we are, or basically not understanding. And I get that. There's not a whole lot of information out there. There's more of these myths, and there's a lot of money in these myths. Where this started now, I've got to be careful. As I'll go down this road, I'll go down a rabbit hole on this one. It went askew. At some point in time, it actually went askew. Believe it or not, we were more concerned about these things early on. We had a better idea of it until the 1950s when a particular physician kind of blew it all up for us and started the whole good food, bad food lie. And I'm not going to go too far down that road. It's for another podcast, but believe it or not, it is the biggest lie in nutrition, and we'll get to that later. But basically what I'm talking about there, when you're talking about metabolism, you're talking about weight gain or what have you, focus on the amounts first. If you want your incredibly research refined, made from virgin goat yogurt, great. I think that's fantastic. First thing, focus on the amounts. Because if you're dealing with metabolism, it's calories in, calories out. We were talking about hypothyroidism earlier. And I have this condition, I have this thyroid. And yes, it's overacting. It's sending messages to your brain that, hey, we need more food, we need more food. But you're not going to gain weight unless you take in more food. The reason I say that is that I'm not criticizing anybody that may have that condition. And if you do, Lord, get it treated. They have medication for it. It can be handled. But it's not this funny gland making a muffin that's 200 calories, 5,000 calories. It's making you want to go eat more. And so again, it is taking in more calories than going out. They say that also that weight gain is attributed to rest or how much sleep you have and what have you, or eating late in the night. Well, again, that's all broken down into the fact that when you're tired, you have less energy, therefore you have less resistance, therefore you're going to eat more. But that's the bottom line on metabolism. It's basically a calories in, calories out. If you're wanting to track that, if you're wanting to control your metabolism, to speed it up, it's quite simple. First thing, I'm going to tell you right now. You can do it. You can do it sitting there wherever you are. If you're in your car and you're driving.
Oh, this is the part I like, right? Where if you post a picture of your food on Instagram, it reduces it by 500 calories, right?
No, see, I don't like it when you blow all my surprises here, Pablo. I tell you, it's quite the reverse, because if you don't post it on social media, it didn't happen.
Right.
So if you don't post the dessert on there, it didn't occur. Say. Now, I'm going to jump ahead, actually. I'm going to tell you how to speed your metabolism. Like I say, you can do it when you're sitting right where you are. It's very easy. Just move. Pablo, I'm going to show you this. It's an incredible exercise. Now, the fact that we're not videoing this at the minute, you're the only one that's going to get to see this. So this is one of those secrets.
I feel special.
I'm going to show you I'm going to show you an exercise real quick to speed your metabolism. Here it goes now. Watch it real colorful. You see what I'm doing here?
Yeah, you're doing your index finger up and out.
It's what I call disco finger.
Yeah.
Disco finger, if you remember. Now watch me. I'm going to slow down metabolism. Watch.
Okay. You stopped moving your finger and made a fist.
Bingo. I don't like it that you share my exercises like that. I should charge for that. I really should. It's almost like I do this for a living. What I just showed Pablo, and as ridiculous as it seems, all I did was move. I expended calories. Even by doing my little disco finger, I expended calories. And when I stopped moving my finger, I stopped expending calories. When I expend calories, you speed your metabolism. When you stop moving, you stop expending calories, you slow your metabolism down. That's how simple it is. Oh, wait a second, Garrett. What about all that organ function and what have you? Well, if you, again, take in less than you expend, you're going to lose weight. If you take in the same amount that you expend, you're going to stay the same weight. If you take in more than you expend, you're going to gain weight, period. Here's how to fix that. Here's how to go about controlling that and controlling metabolism and controlling the weight. First and foremost, don't guess at it. How many calories are in that? Well, don't guess at it. Measure it. I use something a lot in my talks. I talk about perception versus measuring. Perception is when people look at that, I'm eyeball that, and I think in my memory banks, that sounds like that's about, 200 calories. Well, you have no idea what 200 calories is. You just think that conceivably is 200 calories. Don't do that. Measure it. There's a way to measure it. It's very easy to measure and track. They make these fantastic apps. My favorite happens to be MyFitnessPal. It's a free app, and it's really easy to log your food in there. It has an incredible database, and you can log your food in there. You can get an idea of how many calories you're actually taking in. In fact, you can actually start logging it in and get an idea for what your day is going to be like. I have clients that will log their lunch in because they know what they're going to have for lunch. They'll log their lunch in just to kind of help keep themselves on track. And they may be eating clean, pretty good food. Fantastic, but they know the amounts. They can walk in and look at a menu, and they know the amounts of what they're going to have and also how many amounts they should have in a day. And that differs from person to person. But these apps like MyFitnessPal, you can log all your information in. You can easily break down what goals you want to set, and it will spit out what we call your magic number and help you track those things. It's very easy to establish and very easy to set up. And again, it's a free app. I had a client ask me one time, because I don't really use a whole lot of notes when I'm working out with somebody. And he asked me, how do you know my weights? And I said, well, it's easy. I work with you every single week. I mean, this is something I see day in and day out. I can give you a weight rundown through the entire workout. MyFitnessPal becomes that same way the more you actually start using it. Now, if you're tracking in, I said calories in and calories out. If you're tracking in, you definitely want to track your out. And the reason being is that calorie expenditure, caloric needs change day to day, depending on how active you are, how inactive you are. If you move more and you're using a program like MyFitnessPal and you've got a device like a Fitbit, something connected to it where it's actually tracking your calories out, then you can change what your goal is. So, for instance, and please don't write this number down. This happens to be Garrett Williamson numbers, not your number or whatever. But according to MyFitnessPal, I should be taking in somewhere around 1,500 calories a day. Well, I haven't eaten only 1,500 calories since I was a fetus. I take in quite a bit more of that every single day. The reason being is because I move a lot. As I go through the day, it adjusts those caloric needs. It adjusts my calorie intake. And I become like one of my clients. I don't have to worry about what kind of special yogurt I need to be buying or this new expensive thing that somebody found that's an alternative to something that I like. Instead, I just have to be concerned with how many times do I have to go up and down my stairs before I can have another glass of wine. And I'd much, much rather have that problem. And basically, to speed it up, like I said earlier, expend calories. Get moving. Get some rest. Get some muscle. Get some water. Get metabolizing. Just get moving. Very simple. So I touched on this earlier, but I want to make it very clear. Why is there confusion? Again, there's a lot of money in that confusion. One of the biggest things I always want to cover, you know that this is important to me, and that is age. We think that age controls our metabolism. Well, here's the skinny on that. I'll make it very simple for you. We have an epidemic in this nation. We have an epidemic where a certain age group is experiencing obesity for the first time. Can you guess what demographic that is? Childhood obesity. Okay, well, if I ask you, why are we seeing childhood obesity? What's happening? You have any idea?
Kids aren't active anymore. Like, they play a lot of video games, they watch Netflix.
Bingo.
You know, listen
Bingo.
to an awesome podcast like this.
Which, I mean, heavily, hang on a second. Maybe I need to change the way we go on this. No, you're exactly right. They're not moving around or what have you. Most people will say, well, it's a fast food. But McDonald's has been around for a lot of years, folks. Mm-hmm. It's not that. It's the fact that they're not as active. And when they're sitting still, they probably are taking in more calories. So kids are taking in more calories and moving less, and that's why they're getting obese. But not me and you, right? No. Mine's because I hit a certain number on a calendar. We're doing the exact same thing, folks. It's no difference whatsoever. To make it simple, get up, get moving. Track your calories both in and out. That's the easiest way to live well. Tune in next week. We're going to be getting a little more into the body. We'll be covering fat, everybody's least favorite topic. What is it and how it affects us? Thank you so much for listening today. And remember, folks, live well and stay hydrated.
Thanks for listening to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast with Garrett Williamson. Subscribe now and be a part of the show by calling 251-278-EDGE or message us on Facebook and Instagram at Personal Edge Fitness or at Team PE on Twitter, and visit us at personaledgefitness.com.